We're joined now by Debbie Pegram, who's the matron here at St Joseph's Hospice. Wonderful hospice it is too. And we're actually on the ward, we're in a room here. And Debbie, tell me, from your perspective, what do you think good palliative care looks like?
So I think good palliative care is ensuring that patients get, and their families, get the best quality of care at the end of their lives, which includes making sure that they have time. We're very privileged here to have a good staffing ratio, so it's really important that patients and their families have care in respect of looking at all their needs, not just their physical needs, but their social needs, their psychological needs, their spiritual needs, which are really important for someone at the end of their life, even if they have no religion. Everybody has spiritual needs, so it's what's most important to that person at the end of their life, and I would say that is they're the key things.
Do you know, I'm always amazed by coming to this particular hospice actually, in that it has so much life about it. It's almost not what you'd expect in a certain sense. Yeah. Why do you think there is this sort of, is it the commitment to care? Is it the way you treat the families and the patients? What do you think has this slightly uplifting nature about this hospice?
Well, I think, it's a really nice environment. It's very light, it's very welcoming. So I think your initial, when you walk into the place, it feels comfortable. Our teamwork is amazing. I think the welcome is always really positive. So I think your initial feeling when you come to the place is of it being very welcoming and inclusive for all.
And what are those big challenges? Because I'd imagine people can come in, especially if they haven't initially been familiar with the hospice, and be quite distressed or quite anxious about what is to come. Yeah. What are the challenges for you?
Yeah, so I think that is a real concern for people. It's fear of the unknown. So if people haven't been to a hospice and don't understand what we're about, then that initial, arriving here is very, very anxiety provoking for a lot of people. I mean, we've had student nurses come and they walk in and they're like rabbits in headlights because they don't know what to expect. But I think because of that welcome and the feeling you get when you walk in of it feeling comfortable, feeling settled, then you soon get used to what the environment is going to be like and what people are going to be like. So I think that challenge of getting people here in the first place is sometimes a big challenge because they don't understand what it is. And also stigma. There's a big stigma about death and dying still. People don't understand and don't plan. And I think also St Joseph's has a history and people don't quite get what the hospice offers and what it's about. So actually that challenge of getting people here in the first place, once they're here, often they don't want to leave. So that, is tricky because we have people for short stays. This isn't a long-term care facility. It's a short-term care.
And tell me a bit about being matron, managing a ward. I mean, it does strike me though that with the staff, everyone's very, very welcoming. There's that sort of sense of shared common purpose. Yeah. Is this a community as well as a workplace?
It definitely is a community. It feels very special, and some people talk to you about it feeling like a family. I oversee the inpatients, so I don't manage one of the wards, but I oversee the inpatient units. So I'm on the inpatients, on the wards all of the time, on a daily basis. And I think the feeling that people get when they're here, because of the teamwork, because of it being a community, because of so many services that we offer, not just for patients, but for staff as well, it feels very inclusive and as I said before, I've said it a couple of times already, a very comfortable environment to be as a patient, as a visitor, and also as staff.
And do you think there's that issue where it probably needs dispelling, that whereas it can happen, that you're not going to die within hours necessarily? There may be a period of time, and a period of time where you can find peace. Yeah. Tell me about that sort of bedside manner and accompanying people at the bedside. What should that be like?
So I think, again, what I was saying earlier about us being well staffed, we have that we're very privileged to be able to staff the wards with the right amount of staff, nurses, healthcare assistants, our doctors. we have lots of teams as well that support our patients. So there's all the therapists, there's the complementary therapists, so people can have, you know, a massage or a treatment that will help them relax and come to terms with what's happening to them. And as you say, people come for sometimes short periods, and they might come for what we sort of sometimes class as a bit of an MOT, so it might be a bit of symptom management. And once they've had their symptoms managed, they've had a little bit of an input from therapies, or they've got some goals that they want to achieve, they can then go home and come back. And then they'll come back often once they've got used to us. They sometimes come back, and obviously at end of life they would come back for that period.
And I guess if one has the MOT and comes back, you come back a little bit calmer, a bit more reconciled. I'm sure those things are the case.
Definitely. And I think, you know, having the time, and we've got, you know, obviously our chaplaincy team, we've got psychological therapy team, you know, having those teams that have time. You know, somebody who's approaching the end of their life needs to be able to have absolute time to discuss their fears, their thoughts, what may have happened in, you know, their life that they want to just get off their chest and feel at peace with what's happening now for them, and die in peace, and their families to know that they've been able to share some of those things. But we are in an area of London that's, you know, quite complex, multi-faith, multicultural, and, you know, we want to at all times make sure we meet those needs as much as possible. But our teams are fantastic. You know, they've got, the main thing is the time. You know, they have got the time to spend with somebody.
Do you know what I like? I like the way that it's quite a good place for dispelling myths and stereotypes, isn't it? Because you think of a hospice as a place potentially where you start up here and then there's this sort of linear decline. Whereas actually this place is a place full of life, I have to say.
Yeah.
And you've got beautiful gardens, you've got a beautiful chapel where I was told earlier that, you know, should a patient wish it, they can even be wheeled into the chapel. So there's a great piece, isn't there, about this place?
There is. The space here allows patients, families and staff to have some time just for themselves. So we have, as you say, the gardens are wonderful. You wouldn't believe it, being in the East End of London on Mare Street, which is really busy, that there's this space where it's peaceful. You hear I was out there the other day, and there's a blackbird singing, and I thought, oh, we'll bring one of the patients out, which we did in the afternoon. And then the chapel. You know, even if your faith isn't Catholic, or, you know, have that space, the chapel, where you can spend time with yourself, with your feelings, your thoughts, your spirituality, whatever that might be, is amazing. You know, it's we're very, very lucky here to have all that time and space.
And to stick with that life-giving theme, this does come across as a place of learning. People seem to stay in their jobs here, their calling, whatever you want to call it. They seem to stay a long time, and there does seem to be a genuine I want to be here about the staff as well. Does that come through? Absolutely.
So we have staff here that have been through here the whole of their career, because they know the ethos of what we do. So it's one of, you know, being together, being cared for, having the highest quality of care, and those people around you.
Do you know, my brother actually died in a hospital, mid-20s, in a palliative situation. And I remember thinking, you know, everyone's like, oh, I don't want to die in a hospital. I'm sure some think I don't want to die in a hospice. But it was a situation where actually the people around him were the thing that made it most bearable, actually. It wasn't whether it was a sterile environment, whether it was too clinical. I think if the people have that human heart and carry it forward to the relatives, carry it forward in all they do, it makes a huge difference, doesn't it?
Huge.
Is that what you get here?
Absolutely, and it's often the smallest things that have the biggest impact. You know, if you're in a busy ward, you haven't got time to find out how someone likes their cup of tea, whether they like it with milk or strong, or, you know, here, those things are really important. I know that sounds, you know, like a cup of tea, but actually for someone who can't do very much and maybe just drink tea is, you know, so it's really important. And those little things have the biggest impact on patients and their families. There's no doubt about that. The moments of kindness, the tenderness, you know, and I can't put that any stronger really, that due to the time And you know, when we interview, we make sure that people are fit for, obviously for the job, but also we look at our whole sort of ethos and our teams and think about who may fit on any particular service or ward. But actually we're very privileged here, because I think the people that come for the jobs here are the people that really want to be here and really want to work with people at the end of their life. And we have students here as well who come and often want to, you know, they'll say at the end of their sort of placement here from City University, have you got any jobs, can we stay? I mean, that's really great, isn't it? You know, that we're able to, you know, have younger nurses or nurses in there, not always younger, can't be ageist, but, you know, nurses that are early in their career, they want to be here. I wouldn't always encourage a nurse to come here straight from qualifying, but because I think it's good to see a little bit of the outside world first. But actually, you know, we have people that go off and actually a year later say, I've done it now, I'm going to come back, this is where I want to be, you know, so.
I mean, that's really amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
A slightly tougher question from a nursing perspective, flipping it a bit. I mean, you know, it can be quite heartbreaking though, can't it? It can be difficult.
Yeah.
How do you care for the carers? Is that a factor too?
Yeah, it's a huge factor. Of course, it's sad. You know, we have people here from age of 18. We're an adult hospice up to 118. So, you know, it can be really difficult. But we're very supportive. We have the teams, the chaplaincy teams who offer us, you know, guidance and support. So I think, you know, when we're thinking about, when you say about carers, do you mean the families or do you mean the staff?
The staff, the nurses themselves.
Yeah. So we have lots of we make sure that we do debriefings. So if there's been a particularly sad case, which there often is, you know, we have mothers with young children, babies. You know, we've recently had a mother with a fairly newly born baby. That is tricky, difficult. We're here to do a job. We're here to put on, you know, our professional head when we're working, but obviously away from that, we need to have time to process that. So we have debriefings. The psychological therapies team offer us a time to go off and, you know, talk things through, debrief. They're very good on the wards in ensuring they're touching base with the staff before they go home. You know, don't go home with anything in your head. For some people, they want to share it, and others, they have their own coping strategies. You know, when we interview people, we always ask what their coping strategies are for, you know, coping with difficult situations. And as we know, with COVID, there's been some very difficult times. We were pretty unaffected here, but of course we were in many respects. So
I love hearing the passion, Debbie, that you talk about your work here. But I am going to finish with one of those myth-busting questions. So, in a nutshell, what would you say to someone that had a particular stereotype, perhaps, a negative one, something very, very sad and bleak about the hospice movement, hospices in general? Working here and having worked here for some time and having spoken so eloquently, what would you say to a person that was sort of, oh, I don't want to go there? What would you say?
Well, first of all, I say come and meet us, because I think if we get people through the door and they come and see us and talk to us. But I would definitely say, you know, I've been a nurse for 42 years doing lots of different jobs. This is the best job that I've ever done, and that's genuine, because I have the time, I have the teams around me, the support, and it's just a great place to be for patients, families and the staff. There's absolutely no doubt about that.